All right, welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET Now. We're going to take forward our conversation on real estate and the eternal discussion between buy or rent a property, especially when buying a property can sometimes be an extremely expensive affair, given that property prices are still higher compared to especially the national income. And on the other hand, rent, well, this one is still going a little lower, but because property prices are so high, the rent as well tends to be a bit higher. Even then, rental yields, that's rent divided by the property value, still remains at just 2 to 3 odd %. So it can create quite a conundrum. So hence we decided to bring on board Saurabh Garg, co-founder and CBO of nobroker.com. Saurabh, many thanks for joining us today on ET Now. Like I mentioned, the eternal buy versus rent conundrum, and all the more it's a very interesting time that we are having this discussion, because we have rental and property, both the prices have gone down a little. So what are you advising people who come and ask you this question?
Clearly what you are saying is something which we also saw. So we saw that, for example, in April, the transactions were very, very low because the entire city was entire country was in the lockdown. But we saw that from May end, there were, some green offshoots and things started looking slightly better. And for us, at least, we saw that by June and July beginning, we were almost at 80-90% levels of pre-COVID levels. So we saw that people were looking to rent houses, because I think rental is a pretty non-discretionary thing. And some people who have probably moved back to their hometowns are usually people who were probably living in PGs and living in shared accommodation. But what we saw is that most family accommodation, there was not a huge dip in terms of demand. What we also saw is that, interestingly, we are seeing that the number of buyers have actually, at least who are looking to search for a property, have actually increased now. So there are a lot more people who are coming to look at and buy a house right now at no broker. And I think what has happened is that clearly during this pandemic, people understood the importance of having a home which they own. A lot of people wanted to move to bigger homes. For example, if a husband and wife both are working, and if it's a very small 1 BHK, it becomes very difficult to work from home given the space constraint. Because you're working from home, you don't need to be really staying close to where your office is. You can actually move to a bigger house, which is slightly away from where the office is, maybe on the suburbs, but you can have a bigger place to yourself. Especially because you're not going out that much, you need that kind of a space. Coming to a question between rent versus buy, I clearly am seeing the trend that more and more people are looking at exploring options where they're saying, okay, the prices are good, they have come down a little bit, interest rates are very low right now. We know what is the importance of owning a home, because we can do it ourselves, we can make 2 workplaces if we are a married couple, those kind of things. So clearly there is a demand which we are seeing, and I think it's actually a very good time to buy a home right now. Because these kind of prices, these kind of interest rates, you might not see in the long term. So it makes sense to look at an option right away. So what we also suggest everyone is, and what we're seeing also in the market is more and more people are saying they want ready to move in apartments, they're ready to move in houses, bigger houses. That's the kind of trend which we are seeing right now across.
All right. So Saurabh, I think one should buy property. That's very clear, especially if they are looking for a place to live in. Buy is the way to go. Prices as well are low, and not to mention, even if you need a home loan today, interest rates are really, really low. Today, in whose hands is the bargaining power, Saurabh? Is it in the hands of the seller? Is it in the hands of the buyer?
I clearly think it's a buyer's market. So buyers can go and negotiate. They can negotiate with builders. They can negotiate with sellers, and they might actually get the prices that they want. Because more and more, what we saw is, April and May, there was no movement of inventory happening, and so there's a lot of a lot of inventory pileup which is there. And even now, if you look at for the last 2-3 years, or maybe a little longer also, real estate has been, first the GST happened, RERA happened, demonetization happened. So multiple things have happened, and the kind of inventory which is available right now across all the metro cities and across all the 7-8 top cities is very, very high. So, given that builders' cash flows was very low in the last couple of months, people are ready to negotiate. So clearly, buyers should bargain hard and try and get the deal that they want. Having said that, I think still they need to be realistic. They can't go and say, okay, I want a 30% discount from what the builders were quoting. But yeah, I think they can get a 10 to 15% discount to what builders were quoting pre-COVID level.
All right. Saurabh, what kind of discounts are developers offering? What kind of schemes are they offering? And still, I remember in May we had a lot of realty developers speaking to Piyush Goyal and saying, look, ready reckoner rates have not gone down. So even if you do give discounts, it cannot go below that ready reckoner rate. So that's a key conundrum that a lot of developers are facing. And of course, a lot of buyers as well are obviously facing this this dilemma where even if you want to bargain and you want to ask for those deep discounts, but of course it cannot be lower than the ready reckoner rates. So is that the case, Saurabh?
But clearly, I mean, there's a limit to which discounts can be offered because, I mean, if you can just go and look at many of these builders are publicly listed companies. So you can go and look at the kind of margins that they have. They don't have a 50% margin on the product. So clearly, if people are expecting that they'll cut down prices by 30-35%, that's not going to happen. What is, I think, more feasible is they should go and speak to them in some reasonable amount. And if they're ready to close the deal fast, builders can give them the discount. And you're right, some of the places, ready reckoner prices have not come down. And that's why there is a limit to which builders can cut the price. If they can't go below it, otherwise, again, there are tax problems which come both for the buyer and the seller for that. So clearly, those kind of deep discounts are definitely not possible.
Okay, I understood. Saurabh, this is purely from what we've talked about by now is purely from a buying for consumption purpose, where basically, I have been scouting a house, I've been looking for a good home that suits my needs, or perhaps I was living on rent all this while, or now I want my own home, or I'm looking for a bigger home, whatever the case may be. But the conundrum is for people who may be looking at real estate as an investment, especially the more traditional people who swear by real estate as an investment, and I guess rightly so, right? I mean, between 2000 and 2010, people have reaped massive gains, just on appreciation of that property alone. And then there was rent. However, now yields are also just 2-3%, and appreciation of the property as well is fairly limited, especially in these last couple of years. So do you think realty is making a good investment case right now?
Look, I clearly think that real estate as an asset class has not performed well in the last 4-5 years. But again, I think commercial has done well. So, if people have to do something for investment, if the environment is improving and you see that, offices and retail is coming back, probably something people should look at, but not right now because there is too much uncertainty right now around that. Again, I really think, if you're investing, many people try and look at properties which are not ready possession. Again, I think that's very risky to do that. Probably look at something which is, even if it's not ready to move in, maybe something which is within a year of possession. I don't think it is very comfortable right now to look at something which is 3 years, 4 years down the line, unless there are some schemes which a lot of builders are floating, which say that, okay, just pay 10% right now and pay 90% at possession. Those kind of schemes might still make sense, but if you're paying for under construction property right now and you're paying the EMIs till the time the possession is given, that I think doesn't make sense at all. And you'll be paying for the property, you'll be paying for the rent. I think that becomes very, very difficult for most people.
All right. Saurabh, What about in tier 2 and tier 3 towns? There's more affordability of real estate, and of course, not to mention, that will perhaps lead to higher yields as well. There's more promise as well, for sure, and plus, pricing over there as well has moved in a much more significant manner than in metros like Mumbai, Delhi, etc. And I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot as well. So, is it a good idea to invest any surplus funds that people are having in a real estate property, but in tier 2, tier 3 towns?
Yeah, I think it's a very, I mean, a lot of people come and ask me that question. I think in the last 15 days itself, at least 5 people have asked me that so many people are moving to smaller towns. Does it make sense to invest in these smaller towns? I mean, I think it's too uncertain right now. It's very difficult to answer that question right away because maybe everything will be normal in the next 2-3 months and people will come back to cities like Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, and is working from there. So I think it's a very difficult answer. I don't have an answer to this. I really think there are cities which have performed well over the past few years, and they will continue to do well. Cities like Bangalore and Hyderabad, where real estate has done well. If of course, there are cities like Delhi, for example, NCR, where there is an oversupply and the prices have been very stagnant. But I clearly think that cities like Bangalore and Hyderabad, which are developing, which are growing fast, and there is more demand from the end users, these are the cities which will probably do well in the medium term also.
All right. Thank you so much, Saurabh, for joining us today and, just getting our viewers started to thinking on this entire conversation.